The Vorkath flew beside the Teguk through the darkness between stars. To anyone watching, they looked like an impossible pair, a human warship and an ancient dragon traveling together toward Earth. Behind them, the Council fleet followed like a swarm of angry insects. On the bridge of the Teguk, Captain Do-Yun studied the tactical display. Red dots marked enemy ships. There were too many to count. The Council had sent everything they had: battle cruisers, destroyers, carrier groups, all focused on one target, the dragon that had betrayed them. Yunji stood beside him, watching the same display. She asked the question that everyone was thinking: how long until they catch us? Do-Yun checked the numbers. At their current speed, maybe 6 hours. Maybe less if the Council ships pushed their engines harder. Yunwoo appeared on the bridge looking worried. He had been running calculations in his lab. The Jupiter station was ready, he said, but they needed at least 30 minutes to complete the connection between the Dragon and the quantum array. 30 minutes with no interruptions, no attacks, no distractions. Do-Yun understood what that meant. They needed to hold off the entire Council fleet for 30 minutes. With one ship, it was impossible. But he did not say that out loud. Instead, he asked Hyunwoo to make sure the station was prepared. They would figure out the rest when they arrived. A communication request came through from the Vorkath. Do-Hyun accepted it. Minji's voice filled the bridge, that strange layered sound that was both familiar and alien. She wanted to talk, just talk. Like they used to before everything went wrong. Do-Hyun ordered everyone else off the bridge. When they were alone, he asked his sister how she was feeling. The question seemed stupid as soon as he said it. How do you feel when you are dead but also alive? When your body is gone but your mind lives inside a dragon? Minji laughed. The sound was strange, coming from the dragon, echoing across the communication link. She told him it was hard to explain. She was herself, but she was also more than herself. She could feel the other consciousnesses inside the Vorkath. Hundreds of them. All awake now. All aware they were not all friendly. Some were angry at being trapped for so long. Some were confused. Some were afraid. But they all agreed on one thing. The Council had to answer for what it had done. Do-Yun asked if she was scared. Minji was quiet for a moment. Then she admitted that yes, she was terrified. Not of dying, she already died once, but of failing, of letting all those trapped souls down, of watching the Council escape justice one more time. Do-Hyun told her something their father used to say: being scared is fine. Being scared means you understand the danger. But you do not let fear stop you. You do what needs to be done anyway. That is what makes someone brave. Minji thanked him. She told him she loved him. Then the communication ended. The Vorkath flew on through the darkness and the Teguk followed. They stopped once to refuel and rest. The Vorkath needed to absorb stellar radiation to maintain its energy. They found a small star off the main routes and held position there for 2 hours. The dragon spread its wings and floated near the star's surface, drinking in power. While they waited, Do-Hyun contacted Earth. He needed to warn them what was coming. He needed to make sure the Jupiter station was truly ready, but most of all, he needed to talk to his father. Ambassador Tae-hyun appeared on the screen. He was an old man now, 65 years old, with white hair and a face marked by a lifetime of difficult choices. When he saw his son, his expression did not change, but his eyes showed everything: relief, fear, grief, hope. Do-Hyun told him about Minji, about the dragon, about the Council's plan to destroy humanity, about the broadcast they were planning from the Jupiter station. He spoke quickly, knowing they did not have much time. Tae-hyun listened without interrupting. When Do-Hyun finished, the old man was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that surprised everyone listening. He said that he already knew. Not all of it, but enough. He had been investigating the Council for years, following the same trail that Minji found. The reason he never acted was simple. He had no proof. The Council controlled all official records. Any evidence he found could be dismissed as human lies. But if Minji could broadcast the dragon's memories directly into people's minds, if everyone could see the truth for themselves, then nothing the Council said would matter. Tae-hyun told his son that Earth would be ready. The defense grid was already activating. Every human ship in the sector was being recalled. It would not be enough to defeat the Council fleet, but it might be enough to buy the 30 minutes they needed. Then the old man said something else. He said that he was proud of both his children, That Minji was brave to expose the truth, that Dohyun was brave to stand with her, and that whatever happened next, humanity would remember what they did here. Dohyun felt his throat tighten. He simply nodded and ended the communication. There was nothing more to say. The Vorkath finished absorbing energy from the star. The dragon glowed with power, scales shimmering like liquid metal. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Dohyun wondered what it felt like to be his sister now, to have that much power. To be both human and dragon, they resumed their journey. Earth was only 3 more jumps away, 3 more chances for the Council to catch them, 3 more opportunities for something to go wrong. On the second jump, a Council patrol found them. 6 destroyers dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly in their path. The lead ship immediately opened fire. Energy beams lanced through space toward the Vorkath. The dragon did not dodge. It phased. One moment it was solid, the next it became transparent and the weapons passed through empty space. The Vorkath reappeared behind the patrol and kept flying. It did not fight back. It just left them behind. But the encounter cost them time. The destroyers reported their position. The main Council fleet adjusted course. They were closer now. Much closer. The third jump brought them to the edge of human space. Earth's sun appeared on their sensors, a familiar yellow star. Home. Dohyun felt something relax in his chest. They were almost there. But then the sensors detected something else. A massive energy signature. Moving fast, coming from the direction of the Council territories, it was Councillor Jiwon's flagship. The largest ship in the Council fleet. And it was not alone. Battle groups spread out on either side. Hundreds of ships in formation. All heading straight for Earth. Yoonji swore quietly. Hyunwoo looked like he might be sick. Dohyun checked the tactical display and ran the numbers. The Council fleet would reach Earth in 4 hours. Maybe less. They had no time for delays. No time for mistakes. They had to reach the Jupiter station, complete the broadcast, and hope that the truth would be enough to stop what was coming. The Taguk and the Vorkath accelerated toward Jupiter. Behind them, Earth's defense grid powered up. Ships moved into position. Weapons charged. Millions of humans prepared for a war they never wanted and might not survive. Dohyun opened a fleet-wide channel. He told every human captain what was about to happen. He told them about the broadcast. He told them that all they had to do was hold the line for 30 minutes. Just 30 minutes. Then the galaxy would know the truth. The responses came back fast. Every ship confirmed. Every captain pledged to fight. Nobody ran. Nobody hesitated. They were human. Running was not what they did. The Vorkath reached the Jupiter station first. The massive dragon wrapped itself around the communications array like a snake coiling around its prey, but gently, carefully. Hyunwoo's team rushed to begin the connection process. Inside the dragon's mind, Minji prepared herself. She gathered the memories of all the species the Council had destroyed. She organized them, made them clear, made them undeniable. When the broadcast began, every sentient being in the galaxy would experience what she experienced. They would see what she saw, and then they would have to choose. Stand with the Council, or stand against it. The Council fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. Councillor Jiwon sent one final message. Surrender the dragon. Execute everyone involved. Submit to Council authority, or Earth would burn. Ambassador Taehyun responded with 2 words. Come closer. The war for humanity's survival began. The galaxy went silent. For the first time in recorded history, every species stopped fighting. Every war paused. Every conflict froze. Because everyone, everywhere, had just experienced the same impossible thing. They had lived through memories that were not their own. They saw the execution of innocent beings. They felt the fear of species marked for elimination. They experienced the last moments of entire civilizations as they were fed to the Vorkath. They understood, with absolute clarity, that the Galactic Council had been lying for 10,000 years. On Earth, people stood in the streets looking up at the sky. They had felt it too. The broadcast reached everywhere. Every human mind touched by the dragon's memories. They saw what the Council planned for humanity, complete destruction. And they saw that one young woman had stopped it. At Jupiter Station, Captain Dohyun watched the Council fleet through his view screen. The ships were not moving, not attacking, just floating in space like dead things. He could not believe it had worked. The broadcast had actually worked. Hyunwoo collapsed into a chair, exhausted. His hands were still shaking. He had just changed the entire galaxy with a few connections and the right frequency. He started laughing. Not because anything was funny, but because he could not think of any other response. The Vorkath unwrapped itself from the communications array and flew a short distance away. The dragon's scales were dim now, drained from the effort of the broadcast, but the creature seemed content, peaceful, as if a great weight had been lifted. Minji's voice came through the communication system one more time. She sounded tired, worn out, but also happy. She told Do-hyun that it was done. The truth was out. Everyone knew. And nothing could put that knowledge back in the box. Do-hyun asked what happened next. Minji admitted she did not know. The galaxy would have to decide. The council's authority was broken. But what replaced it? That was for others to determine. She had done her part. Then she said something that made Do-hyun's chest tighten. She said that she could not come back. Not really. Her body was gone. Her consciousness was merged with the dragon and all the other souls inside it. She was alive, but she was not human anymore. Not in the way she used to be. Do-hyun told her that it did not matter. She was still his sister, still the same person who used to steal his homework and hide his shoes, still the brave woman who refused to stay silent when she saw injustice. The form did not matter. The soul was what counted. Minji thanked him. They talked for a while longer. About nothing important, about childhood memories, about their parents. About Earth and all the places they would never visit again. It was a goodbye, though neither of them said the word. Across the galaxy, the consequences of the broadcast spread like fire. On council worlds, governments fell. Leaders who had supported the lies were removed from power. Some peacefully, some not. The old order was collapsing. Species that had been kept weak and dependent suddenly understood they had been manipulated. Anger turned to action. Protests became revolutions. And through it all, one question echoed everywhere. What now? Counselor Ji-won tried to flee. His flagship attempted to jump away from Earth's solar system, but his own crew stopped him. They locked him in the command center and sent a message to Earth. They were surrendering. Their commander was a prisoner. They wanted to face justice, but fair justice, not revenge. Ambassador Tae-hyun accepted their surrender. He promised fair trials for everyone involved. The guilty would be punished. But the innocent would not suffer for the crimes of their leaders. It was the right thing to do. The human thing to do. The Vorkath remained near Jupiter for 3 days. During that time, delegations from hundreds of species came to Earth. They wanted to see the dragon. They wanted to thank the humans. They wanted to help build something new. Representatives gathered in Earth's orbital station and began discussions. Not about who would rule, but about how to make sure nobody ruled like the council again. They drafted agreements, wrote laws, established systems of checks and balance. It was slow, it was messy, but it was real democracy. Humans played a central role, not because they were the strongest, not because they had won, but because they had proven something important. They had shown that standing for truth mattered more than winning battles. That courage meant doing what was right even when it was impossible. On the 4th day, the Vorkath prepared to leave. Minji spoke to the gathered delegations one final time. She told them about the consciousnesses inside the dragon, about the species that had been lost. She said that she would spend her existence traveling the galaxy, sharing those memories, making sure those civilizations were not forgotten. She would be a living memorial, a reminder of what had been lost, and a warning of what could be lost again if people were not careful, if they did not remain vigilant against tyranny. Do-hyun came to say goodbye. He stood at the observation window of the orbital station and looked at the dragon floating in space. It was strange to think his sister was inside that massive creature. But he could feel her presence, could sense that she was at peace. She told him to take care of their father, to help rebuild, to make sure humanity stayed true to its values. She trusted him to do what was right. Do-hyun promised. Then he asked if she was happy. If being what she was now, trapped in the dragon, was okay, or if it was a curse. Minji thought about it. Then she said something that surprised him. She said that she was happy. She had found purpose. She was giving voice to those who had been silenced. She was preventing their loss from being meaningless. That was worth any price. The Vorkath spread its wings. The dragon glowed with soft light, preparing to jump to another part of the galaxy. Other species needed to hear the truth. Other worlds needed to know what happened. The work was just beginning. Before leaving, Minji said one last thing to her brother. She told him that humans had a gift, not physical strength, not superior technology, but something more important. The absolute refusal to give up. The stubborn insistence that things could be better. That will, that persistence was humanity's real power. She told him to remember that, to teach it to others, because the galaxy would need that strength in the years to come. Then the Vorkath vanished. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. Jumped to another sector, another world, another story that needed to be told. Do-hyun stood at the window for a long time. Around him, diplomats were discussing trade agreements and defense pacts. Behind him, Hyunwoo was explaining quantum physics to a group of alien scientists. Beside him, Yoonji was coordinating with Earth's new fleet command. Life was continuing. The galaxy was rebuilding, and humans were part of it, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as equals. Years passed. The Galactic Council was formally dissolved. A new assembly took its place, built on principles of equality and transparency. Humans helped draft the founding documents. Ambassador Tae-hyun served as one of the first council members until he retired at age 70. Do-hyun became an admiral in Earth's defense forces. He trained the next generation of captains, teaching them strategy and tactics, but more importantly, he taught them values, courage, honor, the importance of standing for what was right even when it was hard. Hyunwoo opened a research institute that studied ancient civilizations. Using the memories from the Vorkath, he helped piece together the histories of species that had been lost. He made sure their stories were written down, preserved, remembered. The Vorkath appeared occasionally, sometimes at major political events, sometimes at small memorials for lost species. Minji spoke through the dragon, reminding people of what had been sacrificed, reminding them to stay vigilant, to never let power concentrate in too few hands again. She became a legend, the human who refused to die, the voice of the lost. Children across the galaxy heard stories about her, about how one person could change everything if they were brave enough to try. On Earth, they built a monument, a simple stone with 3 words carved into it. She refused silence. It stood in the capital city, visible from orbit, a reminder of what one person could accomplish. A reminder that giving up was never the answer. Do-hyun visited the monument on the anniversary of his sister's execution every year. He would stand there quietly, remembering her laugh, her curiosity, her courage. And he would think about what she had become. Not dead, not exactly alive, but something new, something important. On one such visit, 30 years after the broadcast, the Vorkath appeared in Earth's sky. The dragon descended slowly, carefully, and landed near the monument. It was the first time it had returned to Earth since leaving. Minji's voice spoke through the dragon. She told Do-hyun that she was proud of what humanity had built, proud of what he had accomplished. She said that the galaxy was better now. Not perfect, but better. And that was worth everything. Do-hyun asked if she ever regretted her choice. If she wished she could have stayed human, lived a normal life, grown old like he was growing old. Minji said no. She had no regrets. She had found her purpose. She had made a difference. And she would continue to make a difference for as long as she existed. That was more than most people could say. They talked for hours, brother and sister, human and dragon, remembering the past, discussing the present, planning for the future. When the sun began to set, the Vorkath prepared to leave again. There were always more stories to tell. The battle began with silence. For 3 long seconds, the Council fleet and Earth's defenders simply stared at each other across the void. Hundreds of warships on one side, a few dozen human vessels on the other. Everyone knew how this would end. But knowing did not matter. Fighting did. Counselor Jiwan gave the order. His flagship's main cannon fired first, a beam of concentrated energy that could crack a planet's crust. It struck the human cruiser Incheon dead center. The ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris. 23 crew members died instantly. Then every ship on both sides opened fire. Space lit up with weapons fire. Energy beams crossed the darkness like colored lightning. Missiles streaked toward targets. Railgun rounds moved too fast to see. The silence shattered into chaos. Captain Do-hyun watched from the bridge of the Taeguk. His ship was holding position near Jupiter Station, protecting the Vorkath while Hyunwoo completed the connection. But he could see the battle happening closer to Earth. He could see human ships dying, one after another. The Council fleet was too strong, too many, too advanced. Yoonji stood beside him, calling out tactical updates. The destroyer Busan was heavily damaged. The frigate Gwangju had lost engines. The carrier Daegu was surrounded by 3 Council battlecruisers. Each update was worse than the last, but the humans did not run. They fought with everything they had. When their weapons failed, they rammed enemy ships. When their shields collapsed, they kept firing anyway. They traded 1 human vessel for 2 or 3 Council ships. It was not enough to win, but it was enough to buy time. At Jupiter Station, Hyunwoo worked frantically. His hands moved across control panels, connecting cables, adjusting frequencies. Sweat ran down his face despite the cold of the station. The quantum array was delicate. One mistake and the whole thing would fail. One error and everything they sacrificed would be for nothing. The Vorkath remained perfectly still, wrapped around the communications array. Inside the dragon's mind, Minji was preparing the broadcast. She could feel the other consciousnesses helping her, organizing the memories, making everything clear. They had waited so long for this moment, the chance to speak, the chance to be heard. 15 minutes had passed. Halfway there, but the human fleet was being destroyed. Ambassador Taehyun coordinated the defense from Earth's orbital command center. He watched ships disappear from his tactical display one by one. Each dot represented people he knew, friends, colleagues, young men and women who trusted him to lead them. He received a transmission from the captain of the carrier Daegu. The ship was dying. Main power was gone. Life support was failing. But the captain asked permission to do one last thing. Taehyun knew what he meant. He granted permission. The Daegu turned and accelerated toward the nearest Council battlecruiser. It was moving on auxiliary power only, much slower than normal, but it was still massive, still heavy. The Council ship tried to move out of the way. Too slow. The Daegu struck the battlecruiser at full speed. Both ships exploded. The blast was visible from Earth. 400 human crew members died. 2,000 Council soldiers died with them. It was a terrible trade, but it was a trade the humans were willing to make. Counselor Jiwan watched the explosion from his flagship. He felt nothing. Numbers were numbers. Ships were ships. He had more. The humans did not. Simple mathematics said he would win. He ordered his fleet to press forward, faster, harder, end this quickly. But something strange was happening. His fleet was winning, yeah, but they were taking more damage than expected. Human tactics were unusual, unpredictable. They did not follow standard military doctrine. They improvised constantly. A human corvette would pretend to be disabled, floating dead in space. When a Council ship approached to confirm the kill, the corvette would suddenly power up and detonate its reactor. Suicide attacks, again and again, each one taking Council ships with them. 3 human fighters worked together to herd a Council destroyer into a debris field. The destroyer's sensors were too focused on the fighters. It did not see the wreckage until too late. The ship hit a chunk of destroyed vessel at high speed and tore itself apart. A human frigate broadcast a false distress signal. A Council cruiser moved to intercept, thinking it was finding an easy target. Instead, 6 human ships that were hiding powered up and surrounded it. The cruiser never had a chance. Jiwan realized something. Humans fought dirty. They cheated. They lied. They broke every rule of honorable warfare. And it was working. Not enough to win, but enough to slow him down. 20 minutes had passed. 10 more to go. Hyunwoo was almost done. Just a few more connections. Just a few more adjustments. His hands were shaking from exhaustion. But he kept working. Then alarms screamed across Jupiter Station. 3 Council destroyers had broken through the human defensive line. They were heading straight for the station. Straight for the Vorkath. Their weapons were charging. Do-hyun saw them coming. The Taeguk was the only ship close enough to intercept. He ordered full power to engines. His ship shot forward, placing itself between the destroyers and the station. 1 ship against 3. Impossible odds. Yoonji asked if he had a plan. Do-hyun told her the truth. No plan, just hold them off. Buy Hyunwoo every second possible. She smiled at that. A sad smile. She knew what he meant. They were going to die here. The Taeguk opened fire on all 3 destroyers at once. Its weapons were not strong enough to seriously damage them. But they got their attention. All 3 ships turned toward the Taeguk. All 3 locked weapons on Do-hyun's vessel. Do-hyun thought about his sister. About Minji inside the dragon. About everything she had survived. He was proud of her. Proud to be her brother. If dying here meant she could complete her mission, then it was a good death. The destroyers fired. Energy beams lanced toward the Taeguk. But before they hit, something massive moved between them. The Vorkath unwrapped itself from the communications array and spread its wings wide. The dragon's body blocked the weapon's fire. Energy splashed across its scales like water on stone. Minji's voice filled the Taeguk's bridge. She told her brother to get back to the station. To protect Hyunwoo, she would handle the destroyers. Do-hyun wanted to argue, wanted to stay and fight, but he knew she was right. The dragon was stronger than his ship. And the broadcast was more important than anything else. He ordered the Taeguk back to the station. The Vorkath flew toward the 3 destroyers. The ships fired everything they had. Energy weapons, missiles, railguns, all of it struck the dragon. All of it failed. The Vorkath phased through some attacks, absorbed others. Its scales glowed brighter with each hit, as if the energy made it stronger. Then the dragon opened its mouth. Not to breathe fire. Fire was too simple, too normal. Instead, the Vorkath released something else. Pure energy that warped space itself. The beam struck the first destroyer and the ship simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, erased. Gone as if it had never been there. The other 2 destroyers tried to run. The Vorkath was faster. It phased through space, appearing beside one ship, then the other. The dragon wrapped its body around the second destroyer and crushed it like an egg. The third destroyer managed to fire one last shot before the Vorkath's tail smashed through its bridge. 28 minutes had passed. 2 more minutes. That was all they needed. The Vorkath returned to the communications array. Hyunwoo completed the final connection. Everything was ready, but Counselor Ji-won saw what was happening. He understood now. The humans were not trying to win the battle. They were buying time for something else. Something at Jupiter Station. He ordered every ship to target the station. Everything. All weapons. Fire together. The entire Council fleet turned. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of weapons. All aimed at one small station where a dragon waited and a human scientist pressed the final button. Hyunwoo activated the quantum array. The Vorkath's eyes blazed with light. Energy poured from the dragon into the communication system. The broadcast began, and across the entire galaxy, every sentient being stopped what they were doing. Every person, every alien, every consciousness suddenly felt something impossible. They felt memories that were not their own. They saw through eyes that were not theirs. They experienced the truth. The Council fleet fired. Thousands of weapons launched at once. Enough firepower to destroy a planet. All heading toward Jupiter Station. But the weapons never reached their target. Because halfway there, the ships firing them stopped. Crews across the entire Council fleet suddenly understood what they were fighting for. They understood what the Council had done. They understood the lies. One by one, Council ships ceased fire. Weapons powered down. Engines went dark. Some ships turned and flew away. Others just stopped, floating in space as their crews tried to process what they had just experienced. On Ji-won's flagship, the bridge crew turned to look at their commander. Their eyes were full of questions, full of anger, full of betrayal. The counselor tried to give orders. Nobody listened. Nobody moved. 30 minutes had passed. The broadcast was complete. The battle was over. The truth had won. The Vorkath burst through the roof of the council chamber like a bullet through paper. Metal screamed. Crystal exploded into dust. The dragon rose into the black of space, its wings spreading wider than any ship. Energy crackled along its scales, creating patterns of light that hurt to look at. Inside the ruined chamber, Counselor Jiwan pulled himself to his feet. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his eye. Around him, the other council members were screaming, shouting orders, demanding answers. But Jiwan said nothing. He simply stared at the hole in the ceiling where his greatest weapon had just escaped. For 10,000 years, the Vorkath had been the council's symbol of absolute power. It consumed the memories of everyone they fed it. It never questioned. It never resisted. It was a tool, nothing more. But now it was gone. And worse, it was no longer theirs to control. Jiwan activated his communicator. His voice was steady despite the chaos around him. He gave one simple order to the military command. Hunt the dragon. Destroy it. Use any force necessary. The entire council fleet mobilized within minutes. 3 sectors away, Captain Do-Yun stood on the bridge of his ship, the Taeguk. He was 30 years old, tall and solid, with the kind of face that never smiled easily. His crew called him the Iron Captain, because nothing seemed to shake him. But right now his hands were shaking. The message had come through 10 minutes ago. His sister was dead, executed by the council, her body fed to their dragon. The message was official, broadcast across all channels. The council wanted everyone to know what happened to those who challenged them. Do-Hyun's crew watched him carefully. They expected him to rage, to scream, to order an attack on the council station, but he did none of those things. He simply stood there staring at the view screen, his jaw tight. His second officer, a woman named Yoonji, stepped close. She spoke quietly so only he could hear. She told him that attacking the station would be suicide. She told him that Minji would not want him to throw his life away. She told him to think clearly. Do-Hyun nodded. She was right. Charging in blindly would accomplish nothing. But he could not just sit here. He could not just accept this. There had to be something he could do. Then a new message came through. This one was not official. It was encrypted, coded in a pattern that only Do-Hyun and Minji knew, a pattern from their childhood, when they used to send secret messages to each other to annoy their parents. The message was short. It said, "I am alive. The dragon is mine. Coming to you. Be ready." Do-Hyun read it 3 times. His crew crowded around, trying to see the message, asking what it meant. He did not answer. He could not answer, because he did not understand. His sister was dead. He saw the execution broadcast. How could she be alive? Yoonji suggested it was a trick. Maybe the council was trying to lure them into a trap. But Do-Hyun shook his head. Nobody else knew that code. Nobody else could have sent that message. Somehow, impossibly, Minji was still alive. He ordered his crew to prepare for incoming contact. He did not know what was coming. He did not know what to expect. But if his sister said she was coming, then she was coming, and he would be ready. Across the ship in the research lab, Hyunwoo was working when the alert came through. He was a scientist, 32 years old, thin and nervous, with hands that were always moving. He had spent the last 3 years studying stolen council data, trying to understand the technology they used. One of his projects was the Vorkath. He had files on the dragon, pulled from classified databases, bits and pieces of information that the council tried to keep hidden. He knew things about the creature that most people did not. He knew that the Vorkath was not just a dragon. It was a biological computer, a living database. Every memory it consumed was stored inside its mind, perfectly preserved. The dragon remembered everything. Every person it had eaten. Every thought they had. Every secret they knew. But the memories were supposed to be passive. Like books on a shelf, the dragon could access them, read them, but the consciousnesses themselves were gone. Dead. Erased. At least that was what the council believed. Hyunwoo had his doubts. His research suggested that consciousness was not so easily destroyed. Some species might survive inside the dragon's mind, trapped but aware. He wrote papers about it. The council ignored them. Now he wondered if he had been right. When Captain Do-Hyun called him to the bridge and showed him the message, Hyunwoo felt his breath catch. If Minji was truly alive inside the dragon, If she had somehow taken control of it, then everything he theorized was true. And it meant something incredible. It meant that human consciousness was different, stronger somehow, able to survive where others could not. He tried to explain this to Do-hyun, speaking quickly, using words the captain probably did not understand. But Do-hyun got the basic idea. His sister was not gone. She had won. The Vorkath appeared on their sensors 12 minutes later. It was moving through space in a way that should not be possible. The dragon was phasing in and out of normal space, jumping short distances without using jump gates. Council ships were chasing it, but they could not keep up. The dragon arrived near the Taeguk and stopped. It hung in space like a massive sculpture, scales glowing with inner light. Do-hyun's crew armed all weapons, ready to fight if this was a trick. But the dragon made no hostile moves. Then a transmission came through. Audio only. The voice that spoke was strange, layered as if multiple people were talking at once. But beneath all the strangeness, Do-hyun recognized his sister. Minji told him what happened. She told him about the execution, about falling into the dragon's mind, about finding herself in a vast library of memories. She told him about the other consciousnesses trapped there, hundreds of them from dozens of species, all prisoners, all supposedly dead. She told him that humans were different, that human will did not break, that she refused to fade away like the others. She fought. She pushed against the boundaries of her prison. And the other trapped minds saw what she was doing and joined her. Together they rose up. Together they took control. The Vorkath was no longer the Council's weapon. It belonged to the ones it had consumed. And Minji was their voice. Do-hyun listened to all of this in silence. When she finished, he asked the only question that mattered. What did she need from him? Minji's answer was simple. She needed him to help her expose the Council. She had access to all the dragon's memories now. She knew everything the Vorkath knew. And what she found was worse than anyone imagined. The Council had been using the dragon to commit genocide for 10,000 years. Any species that became too advanced, too independent, too dangerous to Council control was eliminated. Their leaders were executed and fed to the Vorkath. Their knowledge was stolen. Their cultures were erased. And the galaxy never knew because the Council controlled all information. Humans were next on the list. Minji's execution was just the beginning. The Council planned to manufacture a war, use it as an excuse to invade Earth and destroy humanity before they became too strong. Do-hyun felt cold rage settle in his chest. He asked what they could do. Minji told him about Hyunwoo's research. If they could get to Earth, to the deep space station near Jupiter, the scientists could use quantum technology to amplify the dragon's telepathic abilities. They could broadcast the truth to every mind in the galaxy at once. No censorship, no lies. Just raw memory, impossible to deny. But the Council fleet was coming. Hundreds of ships all hunting the dragon. They had to move fast. They had to reach Earth before the Council caught them. Do-hyun made his decision in seconds. He told his crew to plot a course for Earth. He told Hyunwoo to start preparing the Jupiter station. And he told his sister that they were coming with her. The Taeguk and the Vorkath turned toward human space. Behind them, alarms were screaming across every Council station. Ji-won was mobilizing the entire military. The chase had begun. Do-hyun stood on his bridge and watched the stars blur as they jumped to faster-than-light speed. His sister was alive. She was transformed into something impossible. And together they were going to bring down an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years. He allowed himself a small smile. Humans were good at impossible things. It was what they did best. The crystal walls of the Council chamber showed images of 1,000 different worlds. Each wall displayed a different planet, a different species, a different civilization bowing before the power of the Galactic Council. Minji knelt in the center of the vast room with her hands tied behind her back. She was 24 years old, the daughter of Earth's ambassador, and in a few minutes she would be dead. She did not cry. She did not beg. Humans came from Earth, a world where everything tried to kill you, a world of storms and earthquakes, of predators and diseases, of deserts that burned and winters that froze. Humans learned long ago that crying did not stop death, only fighting did. And even when fighting failed, you died standing up. Counselor Ji-won stood above her on the high platform. He was tall and thin, with skin that changed colors like oil on water. His eyes were black and cold. He had lived for 300 years and sentenced thousands to death. One more human girl meant nothing to him. The charges were simple. Minji had discovered the truth. For the past 5 years, she worked as a junior diplomat, traveling to council stations, attending boring meetings, filing reports that nobody read. But Minji was curious. She asked questions. She looked at records that others ignored. And slowly, piece by piece, she found the pattern. The council was stealing. From Earth, from dozens of other protected worlds, resources disappeared from planets that were supposed to be left alone. Mining operations appeared in systems that were marked as restricted, and every time someone complained, that person vanished. The council called it justice. Minji called it murder. She made copies of the evidence. She sent it to Earth, to other diplomatic missions, to anyone who would listen. She expected the council to deny it. She expected them to lie. She did not expect them to simply admit everything and sentence her to death. Counselor Jiwon spoke in a voice that echoed through the chamber. His words were translated into 100 languages, broadcast to stations across the galaxy. He said that Minji had committed crimes against the council. He said she spread lies and confusion. He said her punishment would serve as a lesson to all who questioned the council's wisdom. It was all lies and everyone knew it. But power did not need truth. Power only needed strength, and the council had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Guards grabbed Minji by the arms and lifted her to her feet. They were soldiers from different species trained to obey without question. They dragged her toward the far wall where a section of crystal floor opened like a mouth. Below was darkness. Below was the feeding pit. Minji had heard stories about the Vorkath. Every species in the galaxy knew about the great dragon that lived beneath the council chamber. It was older than most civilizations. It was larger than most ships. And it was hungry. Always hungry. The council fed it criminals. Or people they called criminals. The dragon ate their bodies and consumed their memories. Every thought, every experience, every secret became part of the Vorkath. It was the council's greatest weapon and their symbol of ultimate authority. Nothing escaped the dragon. Not even death. The guards forced Minji to her knees at the edge of the pit. She looked down into the darkness and saw movement. Something massive stirred below. Eyes opened in the shadows, glowing with ancient hunger. The Vorkath was waiting. The executioner stepped forward. He carried a blade made from strange metal that seemed to bend light around it. The weapon was old, older than the council itself. It had taken thousands of heads, thousands of lives, thousands of memories, all fed to the beast below. Minji thought about her brother Dohyun. He was out there somewhere. Captain of a human defense ship, probably racing toward the council station right now. He would be too late. He was always too late. But he would try anyway. That was what humans did. They tried even when trying was pointless. She thought about her father, the ambassador, who told her to be careful, who warned her that the council did not forgive those who challenged them. She had not listened. She never listened. Curiosity was stronger than fear. She thought about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests, about cities full of people who did not even know they were in danger. The council had marked humanity for elimination. She knew that now. Her death was just the beginning. The executioner raised the blade. Counselor Jiwon gave the signal. The blade fell. There was no pain. Just a moment of cold, then nothing. Minji's head rolled across the crystal floor. Her body slumped forward. Blood pooled beneath her, red against the glowing crystal. A guard picked up her head by the hair and walked to the edge of the pit. He held it out over the darkness. The Vorkath rose from below, massive jaws opening wide. Scales that shimmered between dimensions caught the light. Eyes burned with colors that had no names. The guard dropped the head. It fell into the dragon's mouth. The jaws closed. The Vorkath swallowed. Counselor Jiwon watched from above. Around the chamber, other council members observed through viewing screens. They expected the dragon to digest the human's memories quickly. They expected to learn her secrets, to find anyone else she had contacted, to eliminate all traces of her discovery. But something went wrong. The Vorkath began to shake. Its scales rippled with light that grew brighter and brighter. The dragon's eyes flashed through colors that should not exist. A sound came from deep in its throat, a sound that was not quite a roar and not quite a scream. The viewing screens exploded. Shards of crystal rained down across the chamber. Guards stumbled backward, shielding their faces. Counselor Jiwon gripped the railing of his platform, his color-changing skin flickering rapidly between shades of confusion and fear. The Vorkath rose higher, climbing up from the depths of the pit. Energy poured off its body in waves that made the air itself ripple. The dragon's eyes fixed on Counselor Jiwon, and then it spoke in human language. Perfect human language. With a human voice. With Minji's voice. The voice was deeper than before, layered with harmonics that suggested vast space and ancient time. But it was unmistakably her. Minji was speaking through the dragon. She said one word. Just one word. But it was enough to send the entire chamber into chaos. She said, "No." The dragon's body glowed brighter. The walls of the chamber began to crack. Alarms screamed across the station. Council members fled their viewing platforms. Guards ran for the exits. Counselor Jiwon stood frozen, unable to move, unable to think. For 10,000 years, the Vorkath had consumed the memories of thousands of beings. For 10,000 years, it had served the council without question. But now something was different. Now something was wrong. The dragon had not consumed the human. The human had consumed the dragon. The Vorkath spread its wings wider than the chamber itself. Stone and crystal shattered. Metal groaned and bent. The dragon pulled itself up through the pit, destroying the feeding chamber as it rose. It climbed toward freedom, toward light, toward vengeance. Inside the dragon's mind, Minji opened her eyes. She was not dead. She was not gone. She was something else now. Something new. Something the galaxy had never seen before. She was human, and humans did not surrender. Not to death. Not to anything.